You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance. It is Wednesday, April 24th. I am Dean Obeidallah, hoping to be your MBFF. And big number. Here's the number, 559. What do you think 559 is? What do you think? Anyone guess? That's how many days there are until Judgment Day. That's how many days there are until November 3rd, 2020. And during the midterms, I would count it down. I'm not going to count it down every day. It would be a little annoying to start at 559. But periodically, I want to remind people of our number one priority. And that's November 3rd, 2020. A lot's going to happen between then. We're going to have Democrats fighting each other. We're going to fight amongst ourselves. We're going to have Trump doing everything he can to elevate himself to the dictator that he is. But 559 days until Judgment Day. And again, November 2018 was the most important election of our lives. November 3rd, 2020 is by far, for those who believe in this country, who believe in the promise of this nation, that is the most important election of our lives. Certainly the most important election of my lives. We got a lot to talk about. First of all, Russia, if you're listening, please take Trump back. We've had enough of him. He's really just... I know you love him. You put him here for a reason. The Mueller report said you knew you would benefit. I get it. Take him back. Russia, please, if you're listening, take him. And before we get into all the real serious stuff, here is Trevor Noah last night breaking down on The Daily Show certain funny things from the CNN town halls. Here's the first one on Amy Klobuchar and responding to Liz Warren's call for student loan forgiveness, which is a remarkable thing. And we've been so obsessed with everything else. We're going to get to that at some point. Here's clip number one, though, first.
While Elizabeth Warren was proposing ways to give Americans almost everything, Amy Klobuchar was waiting to make sure that everyone came back down to earth.
So Senator Warren says, we'll forgive the debt. If you make under $100,000, we'll forgive up to $50,000. What do you think of loan forgiveness and plans that are more generous on the outside than your own?
I wish I could staple a free college diploma under every one of your chairs. I do. Don't look. It's not there. I wish I could do that, but I have to be straight with you and tell you the truth.
Ouch. Klobuchar's gangster, man. She's like the anti-Oprah. Everyone look under your seats. You ain't getting shit. What you think this is?
That's pretty funny. And look, he's doing comedy. If you're like Liz Warren, and I do like Liz Warren myself, I like a lot of the candidates a great deal. It's just some comedy there. And she's not offering free college for everyone. She's talking about student loan forgiveness based on means testing, meaning depending on your income. You can get forgiveness and it would phase out over time. And then here is a funny thing it's a great serious point, and I know people have discussed it, and I know that Michael said he discussed it on his show. Here is Trevor Noah on Pete Buttigieg at the town hall answering a question about his policies. Here's clip number two.
Mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and middle-aged Pinocchio. Unlike the rest of the Democratic field, he didn't come with policy and specifics. No, he came with hearts.
Your campaign website, it's got a lot about who you are, what you believe in. It doesn't have anything specific about policy, like nothing.
We'll continue to roll out specific policy proposals too, but I also think it's important that we not drown people in minutiae before we've vindicated the values that animate our policies.
You have to admit, running for president as a man is so much more fun, right? Because as a woman, you have to bring extra homework, right? Elizabeth Warren calculated 2 cents on every dollar over 50 million. Kamala is breaking down the statistics on maternal mortality as it relates to race and class, but a dude can just come and be like, yeah, I'm just gonna wing it.
And there's some interesting point there. It's based on, I know from social media, there are people who do like Mayor Pete, but are seeing this kind of, there's a whole debate on male white privilege and the such. And we'll get into another day. I want to talk about something here. And I've got to tell you, it has been increasingly angering and disappointing watching the muddled response from our Democratic leaders in the House. And I'm not picking on them. I'm trying to make the point of why Congressman Elijah Cummings, chair of the House Oversight Committee, was so right on Sunday because more things happened today that supported what he was saying. And let's play this again. A really short clip. Elijah Cummings on Face the Nation Sunday talking about if we don't do something about Trump now, what's going to happen? And we've seen it play out every single day since he made that comment. Clip number 3, please.
Now that we know all the information that we know, we can't just allow this to go on and on. If we do nothing here, what is going to happen is that the president is going to be emboldened. He's going to be emboldened because he said, well, I got away with that. And then the people who, his aiders and abettors, that is the Republicans in the Congress, they'll say, oh, he is pretty strong, and they'll continue to go along with him. We cannot afford that. Our democracy cannot afford that.
And I cannot agree more with that. That's why I've played it, I think, 3 days in a row, just to bring that home that I think he's the chair of the Oversight Committee. He's got it. That's so spot on. And I think since Mueller is gone, Trump feels like he is unchained. He can do whatever he wants, and we're seeing that. And yesterday we went through how he was already stonewalling the Democrats in specific areas. They said no yesterday to the tax returns that Donald Trump at the House Ways and Means Committee had made a legally supported request through the Secretary of Treasury for Trump's tax returns. Nope. Then the White House Personnel Security Director, Carl Klein, is supposed to testify about why did they overrule even the CIA and other agencies who flag concerns about the security clearance for people like Jared Kushner? Well, Carl Klein just didn't show up yesterday. Just didn't show up and said the White House told me not to come. And then we learned yesterday that the White House said they're going to fight the subpoena issued to Don McGahn, the former, he doesn't even work for the Trump anymore, former White House counsel. And on Tuesday, Trump sued Elijah Cummings and the Oversight Committee for making a request, a duly authorized subpoena to Trump's accounting firm to get all documents about Trump's financial background. And nope. And then today, Donald Trump took it to a new level. And I'm telling you, this is building and building. And we're getting a picture of where this is going. And here is Trump today, clip number 5. I had to play. It's only 25 seconds. I know we all hate to hear the voice of Trump, but we got to hear. Here's clip 5.
But we're fighting all the subpoenas. Look, these aren't like impartial people. The Democrats are trying to win 2020. They're not going to win with the people that I see, and they're not going to win against me. The only way they can maybe luck out, and I don't think that's going to happen, it might make it even the opposite. That's what a lot of people are saying. The only way they can luck out is by constantly going after me on nonsense.
It's not nonsense when the Republican former FBI director outlined crimes you committed. But in any event, there's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is he's not objecting to one or two things. It's not like a situation where he says, this one subpoena for my tax returns, that's overly broad or unduly burdensome, or the typical defenses you use objections to a subpoena. He's saying we're not doing anything. We're saying no to every single thing the Democrats want. Nothing. And we were touching on that yesterday. If that were to happen, what is the power of Congress to compel him? And that's what I want to go through today. And that was before Donald Trump said, we're saying no to every subpoena. And after that, Trump said, I'm going to object to everyone, any witness they want. I'm going to say no to anywhere I can do it and assert executive privilege to stop it. So the question is, what can Congress do to force Donald Trump and the executive branch to respond and comply with legally authorized subpoenas? Here's the worst part of this, and it's really getting scary what's going on now, and that we have a paper tiger in terms of enforcement against a sitting president and an executive branch. That usually it's about negotiation. But when push comes to shove, the executive branch has been given more and more power over the years to hide things from the American people. Now, there is an actual federal statute that empowers Congress to seek a penalty, a criminal penalty against someone who willfully refuses to comply with a subpoena. It's 2 USC section 192. So that federal statute, if you're playing along at home and you want to open up your federal statute book, it's 2 U.S. Code section 192, provides any person who willfully fails to comply with a properly issued committee subpoena for testimony or documents is guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable by a substantial fine and imprisonment for up to 1 year. So it's not a felony, it's a misdemeanor, but up to a year in prison. Part of the problem is, besides these words in the statute, there's no really robust criminal enforcement mechanism that works quickly and efficiently. There were some great articles today, and I culled some and put them together. Here is Lisa Griffin, a law professor at Duke University, said the current rules in case law are not well equipped to deal with pure cold stonewalling, which seems to be the White House posture. That's exactly true. If the Trump administration continues with these threats and says, we're giving you nothing, you don't have the power to oversight us, you have no power at all, we're going to ignore you. We're just going to ignore you and you do what you want. There's very limited options for the Democrats. And I read today this great memo by the Congressional Research Service, which is a nonpartisan part of the federal government. They answer questions for congressional offices, and they wrote an entire memo in March, an attorney for the CRS. And I want to read some of it. I think it's really helpful. It's also really scary. How little power Congress has to enforce these things. That's why they tend to be negotiated. And there are two ways, according to the Congressional Research Service, that Congress can pressure administration officials to respond to subpoenas: criminal contempt citations or civil enforcement. Here's the problem with both. First, and this is right from the report, the criminal contempt statute permits a single house of Congress to certify a contempt citation to the executive branch for criminal prosecution. Once the contempt citation is received, any prosecution goes to the Department of Justice. Therein lies the problem. It goes to the DOJ, where Bill Barr runs the show, who is Donald Trump's cover-up attorney general. Bill Barr, so right now what happens, the House Oversight Committee says the Trump guy didn't show up, Carl Klein didn't show up, we want to hold him in contempt. We're going to certify. They vote in the committee, and they send it to the Department of Justice. Get it? Do you think Bill Barr is going to authorize the criminal prosecution of someone in the Trump regime? Nope. He's going to say no. And with Democrats, with Republicans, they'll say, oh, it's executive privilege, and Barr is going to defer. We know that. So this is sort of off the table. And I'm going to read you some examples over the years as well. The second way to enforce it, Congress may enforce a subpoena by seeking a civil judgment declaring that the recipient is legally obligated to comply, meaning they sue them in federal court, which they have the power to do. They sue them in the federal court, in district court in Washington, D.C. There's no criminal penalty. But if a judge in the civil action says you have to comply, if you do not comply with that judge, you can be held in contempt of court. The problem is that takes a long time. That's a normal lawsuit, folks. And I'm going to give you some examples which are really scary here. Here are examples from the CRS report today that I was reading. In 1982, a pair of House committees run by Democrats subpoenaed the EPA director, Ann Burford, of the Reagan administration. They wanted to get these documents regarding the EPA's enforcement of the Superfund law. Well, Ronald Reagan goes, nope, you're not getting the documents. I don't care. Tells them, don't do it, don't get the documents. What happens? The committee, the House approves a criminal contempt citation for Buford's failure to comply with the committee's subpoena. They go to the Department of Justice, and the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia says, I'm not going to present this criminal contempt application to the grand jury, saying I have discretion, because the U.S. attorney in that district is under the attorney general at the time, which in this case is Bill Barr. So nothing happens. Nothing. And ultimately, they work out a deal and get it through negotiations. In fact, 4 times since 2008, the House of Representatives have held executive branch officials in criminal contempt of Congress for denying committee information subpoena during an ongoing investigation. In 3 of the 4 times, none of the times was it ever brought to a grand jury. So no time was it anyone ever criminally prosecuted for doing this. And they all know that. Trump knows that. He's a moron, but people tell him, hey, it's a paper tiger. They can tell you they're going to put Steve Mnuchin in jail, your Secretary of Treasury. They're not going to. They can tell you can put everyone on the administration in jail. They're not going to do that because you got Bill Barr. This goes to DOJ, and DOJ goes, nope, Trump has a valid privilege, and we're not going to criminally prosecute it. That is unreal. In fact, though, and just so it's clear, some Democrats administrations have said no to Republican committees. In fact, the most recent example is Eric Holder, AG under President Obama. 2012 would not give up documents. He was held in criminal contempt by the committee. The first time a cabinet official in U.S. history was ever held in criminal contempt. The vote actually had 17 Democrats join the Republicans in voting to hold Holder in criminal contempt. He was never criminally prosecuted. He's the AG. Even when he recused himself, his deputy AG was not going to criminally prosecute him. So what the House committee did is filed a civil lawsuit to get the documents. They won. It took them 4 years to win that lawsuit. Trump knows this as well. He's going to run the clock out. And that's where we are right now. So, for example, you've got the House Oversight Committee wants the personnel security guy who gave clearance to Kushner. They're saying no. They know he's not going to jail. And if you assume, it'll take years to compel him. This is how screwed up our system is. And the same thing with the tax returns. They understand that Bill Barr is going to protect them all from any criminal prosecution. You have to sue them civilly. And here's the worst part of it all, folks. If you haven't lost confidence in our system, here's even worse. Say somehow Bill Barr goes, okay, you can criminally prosecute Steve Mnuchin for willfully failing to comply with the subpoena. He gets he's held in criminal contempt. He's found guilty. He's sentenced to prison. What happens? Donald Trump pardons him, and he's out that day. And there's nothing we can do. Do you see how bad this system is? And the reason we didn't know how bad this system is because we've never had someone as corrupt as Donald Trump to push the envelope on all the guardrails and norms that were part of our system. So our framers and the laws passed since then never contemplated a sociopathic criminal being in the White House like this. Richard Nixon was scary, but Trump takes it to a new level. I mean, Trump conspired with Russia and might not be criminal conspiracy, the elements of that crime, but clearly the Mueller report says Russia perceived it would benefit from a Trump administration, and Trump knew that he would electorally benefit from the help of Russia, and he helped them from Russia, can you hear us, to a Trump Tower meeting with his son and Jared and Paul Manafort to get dirt, to using WikiLeaks data, which was stolen by Russian military hackers. There's no doubt about it. This is depressing. I've got to be blunt with you. This is not a good feeling. We won the House, and the power of Congress depends on the kindness of strangers. It is unreal where we sit right now. So there's only two options right now. There's third. Third is just to check out. That's not going to happen. Number one, the Democrats understanding that they have little ability to compel members of the executive branch to do things quickly. It's going to take years to do it. Years, literally. We saw with Eric Holder, 4 years, 3.5 years to get the documents. You do impeachment now. How about that? You do impeachment. So the whole country can at least be exposed to the wrongdoing, the criminal wrongdoing outlined by Robert Mueller, and you keep it very specific to the Mueller report. You don't play games. It's because they're asserting executive privilege and they have a good faith basis to do that. And they actually do have a good faith basis. They're going to lose ultimately, but there is a good faith basis to say their executive privilege and let it be litigated. That's one. Two, if we can't do that, we focus everything we can on 559 days from today, November 3rd, 2020, to win this election. But what I cannot stomach at all, and I will say this one thing. Jamie Raskin, who I like a lot, has been on our show. We're going to get him back on. A con law professor, a really smart guy, a Democrat on Judiciary Committee, made the best argument I saw for waiting and having hearings for the next few months and then maybe doing impeachment. And his argument, it's a different time period, but it's relevant to the discussion. In 1973, when they began hearings into Richard Nixon's wrongdoing, pre-impeachment, articles of impeachment, barely a third of Americans wanted to remove Richard Nixon. After 7 months of investigations, 2/3 of America thought Richard Nixon should be removed. Now, it wasn't all just because of the hearings. That was the best argument. The worst argument I heard was from a centrist Democrat from New Jersey who said, if a president abuses power, the answer is to beat him in the election. Look, if you're a Democrat and you're going to let the president abuse power and commit crimes in the White House, then why shouldn't the people in your district just vote for a Republican? Because you're doing no different. You're doing nothing. Why not just have a Republican in your district? Because there are some Democrats in swing districts going, well, I'm afraid if I stand up, the people in my district are going to vote for a Republican next time. I can assure you, if you do nothing else than what a Republican does, the Democrats are not going to come out and you're going to lose. They voted for you because they wanted you to be a check on Donald Trump. And if the people in your district love Trump, they're never voting for you anyway. It's the people in the middle who want you to stand up to be a check on a lawless president. So here's where we are. I am angered. I want Democrats to move quickly. I want them to go for impeachment. That's my view. If not, then they are going to have hearings. So at least we have that. But this idea, this political calculation that, we can't do impeachment because we're going to lose. I can assure you, if you do not do impeachment, you're going to lose. I can assure you of that. History tells us that. Because you cannot pretend to be just, if you're going to act just like a Republican, guess what? Your district's going to replace you with an actual Republican because they see no difference. So why have the Democrat there? You got elected because people wanted a check on this lawless president, and also a check to protect our health care, pre-existing conditions coverage, to prevent this guy from giving more tax cuts to the wealthy, and the list goes on. So it's policy, yes, it's not just this, but this is part of why they elected you. Again, if you're going to act like a Republican, then you might as well lose and put a Republican there, because at least we know they're going to do this. Don't let us down. So 2020, November 3rd, 2020, I think we defeat Trump, and any Democrat who is playing this kind of, I'm just going to go along with Trump's crimes. You're not a Democrat. You're just a Republican. Just leave and we'll elect a Democrat, or just have a Republican. At least we know what you're about. This is ridiculous what's going on. 866-997-474. I'd love to hear from you. You're my guest right to the top of the hour right here on the Dino Badala Show. Look, it's time the media start calling out Trump's false statements for what they are. Lies. Trump is a liar.